We'll call this meeting to order at 6:13 PM. The city manager asked me to start the election process for this meeting, which I'll do, and run the meeting until we elect a new.
And if I might, we should start with roll call.
Roll call.
Board Member Shapiro. Board Member Coley.
Here.
Board Member Zegjian.
Here.
Board Member Panemarov.
Here.
Board Member Garcia is not present. Board Member Medina.
Here.
Board Member Hazel.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Pestizo is not present. Board Member D'Amato.
Here.
Board Member Byers.
Here.
Board Member Joy Riley is absent, and Board Member Parra Miller is absent. There's a quorum.
Cool. Thank you, Hector. We'll proceed to item number 2, which is the election of chair and vice chair of the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee. Do we have any nominations for chair? Member Panama.
I'll nominate Member Byers for chair. Unless somebody else.
Second. We have a nomination and a second for Member Byers to be chair of the TURA Budget Committee. Need to do a roll call.
Board Member Shapiro.
The motion is to the motion is to elect Member Byers as chair of the TURA Budget Committee.
I think we're doing roll call, so.
Yes.
And if you want to turn on your microphone and tip it towards you. Thanks for being here.
Board Member Coley.
Yes.
Board Member Zegjian.
Yes.
Board Member Panemarov.
Yes.
Board Member Medina.
Yes.
Board Member Hazel.
Yes.
Board Member D'Amato.
Yes.
And Board Member Byers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do I then continue the election for the vice chair or do you turn it over to you?
I will take it from there.
Okay.
All right, so I will accept a motion for vice chair of the TURA Budget Committee.
I nominate Eleanor Panemarov.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to nominate member Panemarov as vice chair of the TURA Budget Committee. Roll call, please.
Board Member Coley.
Yes.
Board Member Zegjian.
Yes.
Board Member Panemarov.
Yes.
Board Member Medina.
Yes.
Board Member Hazel.
Yes.
Board Member D'Amato.
Yes.
Board Member Byers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 3 of
Sorry.
3 of the
Did you
agenda.
forget? Point of order. Did you not call Member Shapiro's for vote?
Apologies, Board Member Shapiro, and thank you, Board Member Panemarov.
Thank
Board
you.
Member Shapiro is on the opposite page, so that was my. Board
Board
Member Shapiro,
Yes.
thank you.
Because you called her
Motion
first
carries.
before.
Thank
She
you.
didn't know what was going on. I thought that was.
All right, moving on to item number 3 of the agenda, budget officer presentation of fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget and budget message. Alex?
Thank you, Chair Byers and members of the committee. TURA, as you all know, the taxing authority of the district sunsetted a few years ago. So there's no significant income coming into the TURA fund. So we've, as a staff, and we have separate counsel for TURA and the city to maintain that legal distinction. So Dave Lohman, on behalf of the city and the TURA's council, have been having discussions about, is there any value to continuing to have that additional body in existence, particularly for the disposition of the sale of the Gateway site. We haven't come to a conclusion about that, but unless there is a significant benefit to having that additional body, we'd move towards closing the agency this year because we're paying just overhead to keep that agency running. So the budget that you see before you is intended to reflect the possibility that we may spend out all funds or transfer all remaining funds to the city, most likely to benefit the Gateway project itself. And if we chose not to do that, it could, fund balance could continue and we could bring a budget to you all next year to continue the agency. But essentially what's being proposed is to continue paying overhead for the agency. There's a little bit additional legal costs assumed because we are going to be potentially making a new, if we do keep the agency in place, we'll need a legal agreement between the agency as owner of the Gateway site and the city through the disposition process. But essentially the budget expects that we would spend out the remaining funds in support of the Gateway project and close the agency.
Member Shapiro?
So we're not gonna try and get another like bond to go for funding. Like now that maybe things are different at Fire District 5, maybe there won't be the.
Yeah. Sure. So I think the question is there any value in keeping the agency open if we were to seek a new district?
Right.
And I think that's part of what we need to ask our the respective councils. I don't think that there's a huge, I mean, it's probably a few hours of staff time to set up to reestablish it. But we definitely will check if there's value in keeping it on the books that would reduce the burden if and when the city does want to do a new district.
I don't know what projects, if we were try to go again for another bond, or what projects we have in mind, but there would be a lot of opposition to it now because Fire District 5 I hope would not be. I don't know.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the record, so a bond would either be a revenue bond of the cities because TURA doesn't have any revenue. Could be a general obligation bond of the cities. Again, TURA couldn't have a general obligation bond. TURA could bond against future tax benefits of a new district if we were to establish a new district. And typically you can't go out for a bond for a couple years after establishing a district. They want the bond market wants to see a couple years established income before they would bond against future revenues from a new district.
Board Member Penamara?
Thanks. Just two clarifying questions. So it's not the budget committee's decision whether or not the TURA continues as an agency or not. That would be up to the city and the TURA board. And also that there's nothing in this budget that would force our hand either way.
That you are absolutely correct on both points, Member Penamara.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Alex, did you have any points of interest that you'd like to highlight on the budget before us?
No, I think that concludes my presentation. So yeah, nothing additional to add.
Member Penamara?
Thanks. Yeah, just looking, I can ask questions about the budget, right?
Yes,
So-
we're moving on to agenda item 4. Questions of staff on the fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget.
Cool. Okay. So reading this budget, it looks like it's just like a keep alive budget, except for the 383,000 going to the Gateway project. So that would just be leftover money contributed towards whatever. It just seems a little vague, and I know that a lot of it's getting paid for by peer and all of that. I'm just wondering why it was put as Gateway project versus. Well, I don't know what, I don't know. Okay, so that was just a stab. So if we were to say like, put it towards town hall or something like that, would we need to change it? Or is it just, one capital project versus another?
So yeah, I believe if we were to expend those funds on a different project, that would require a supplemental budget. I'm looking to our finance director. But would that require a supplemental budget on that point? Okay,
Resolution.
okay, thank you. And just to clarify for the record, the finance director Deline responded that the TURA board could assign those capital outlays to another project by resolution of the TURA board.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Because it's within the same fund, right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And if we, sorry, can I follow up again?
Yes.
And to follow, and if we were to decide to shut down the agency and it would go to the city and the city would then decide what to do with it. They could transfer to the city, but that would be a kind of part of the whole closing up shop.
Yes,
And I was just gonna say, and the city manager is nodding.
Member Diamato?
I'm assuming it's allocated to the Gateway project because it's part of some plan and goal. I mean, right? I mean,
that is the remaining active, or that is the active project of these already established capital projects that are in the budget.
Member Shapiro?
So it probably really makes no sense to keep urban renewal active.
So, urban renewal agencies do have some additional flexibility in the sale of their assets and purchasing of assets. So that's what we're exploring with the attorneys, is given the way that we're planning on offering the Gateway site, would there be a benefit to having the agency actually be the formal body that's issuing that request for proposals? And then if they did, do they need to remain in place to, oversee that project, or could that be essentially, delegated or transferred to the city, and then we could shut down the
So it's
agency?
kind of a wait and see till you find out what's the best bet, or just keep it open until
It-
you advise
it-
what
That,
would be best.
that's correct. Yes, the budget allows, it was, Tessa and I drew up this budget, trying to think about, what it would potentially work in multiple scenarios. The closure of the agency, and, or the continuation of the agency, without expending those funds. If we wanted to continue it, we would just then have a beginning fund balance of $300,000 or $400,000 next year. I think the scenario that may potentially drive a supplemental budget would be if we could choose to transfer these dollars to the city.
I have some questions.
Member Hazel?
First, I was wondering, what is the miscellaneous income that we didn't budget for, the $21,000 in miscellaneous income?
So that, oh, thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yes, so that was the miscellaneous income, is the income from the sale of the trailers on the Gateway site.
Okay. And then is it okay to go down my list? I've got 4 questions.
Are there any other questions at this point in time? Please
And
continue.
if I could add just a clarifying, our agreement with OHCS, which purchased those trailers, is the proceeds for those trailers will be dedicated to the Gateway, to the redevelopment of the Gateway
Okay,
site.
that's,
So it is restricted income.
my second question is, why were the administrative services $5,500 over? They're 43.5 for estimated for 24-25, and it was only budgeted for 38. I'm just wondering what that increase amount was.
Sure, it's based on an allocation of city personnel costs. So the cost is based on an allocation of city staff that support TURA, and then also utilities at Gateway. And it sounds like Finance Director Deline's suspicion is the difference between the budgeted figure and the actual figure is primarily driven by those utility costs at the Gateway.
The
So-
utilities were that high? Oh, okay. Okay. Then the next question is about the grants to the Talent Business Alliance, the $11,000. That wasn't What was that for? What is that?
That was to support the rare participant, I believe, Talent Business Alliance, Travel Southern Oregon, and the City of Talent have funded a rare participant to do a destination tourism study for Phoenix and Talent together. And so that was the city's contribution to that position.
I think I met her.
Okay, before you go on, are there any other questions coming up? Member Panama?
Just a point of order, maybe. I think staff answering questions like Tessa's answers, I think would be good to capture those with the microphone for people who aren't here, who might be listening to the meeting later. And they're very good answers. So do you mind?
That's what would you like to set up here? All right. Member Hazel, please.
Okay, I have just one more question, and I was wondering why for the Gateway project, we budgeted $375,000, but only 100,000 is estimated to be expense this year. Why? What was the change there?
I'm not sure what the 375 basis was, so I'll pass that to Turk.
And really quickly, Tessa, is your microphone on?
It's on. I will have to be able to provide an answer at a later date for that question.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. It's,
Okay,
thank you.
that's all.
Thank you. Are there any other questions connected to any 2025 budget line item?
Are there any more trailers that were per se that will be getting income from on the project?
We're not, well, so this 21,000 is an estimate for this year. So I'm not sure that all 21,000 of that income has yet been realized. So there are still potential additional sales this year.
And I do not know what the cost would be or the revenue would be on those.
So we still have some that
We do.
we would be getting revenue from that are left.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Alex, could you do a really quick outline of the disbursement for the trailers, just so the
Yeah,
budget
Yeah,
committee understands?
absolutely. So I think there were originally 52 trailers on site there, or 53. And so the city has offered trailers to fire survivors who need those trailers, and part of their permanent housing solution would be that trailer at no cost. There are they have also been, there are a few non-fire survivors there that was not the city's plan, but one of our property managers did bring them on. The city policy, as I understand it, is to offer sale of those trailers to them at half the appraised value if they are interested. And then those trailers that neither of those paths are needed, then we have an agreement with, used to be the vendor has changed. They've now merged with Camping World. And so they're appraising those trailers. And if we accept their appraisal, we're selling them to them.
That was on my time. Who bought the trailer?
So OHCS funded the original
So we
purchase.
get
of
the
those
money.
trailers. Well, and that's why I was saying that our agreement with OHCS is to dedicate the revenues from those trailers to the Gateway,
project.
to the
Okay.
Gateway project.
That's
Are there any other questions?
I guess just one last one is what is the
Member
time
Hazel.
frame for the, I'm sorry, what's the time frame for the sales? Is there a deadline?
Yes, so our current lease agreement with Access, who is managing the site currently, expires at the end of August. So that is, the city's plan, Access's plan, and OHCS's plan for the closure of that site.
Member D'Amato?
then what happens with trailers that have a lease?
So I'm not sure that we're going to have additional trailers. So all the trailers that have not yet been sold could potentially be sold to or donated to the current occupants. If we do end up with a few. Our options would be to continue selling them to Camping World, or I've been talking to the city attorney about potentially doing an auction. We have had some, half a dozen or 5 inquiries from, members of the public who have expressed interest in purchasing those. So that may be in the city's interest in terms of maximizing revenue. We are a little bit nervous given the condition of those trailers. It feels a lot safer to sell them to, a business that is really well equipped to assess them and understand what the risks and value of them are. But we may consider another option as well.
Hence the estimated revenue on this budget with the acknowledgement that it could differ. from-
Yes, and to clarify, every estimated, every 24, 25 figure you all see is estimated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, public hearing on fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget. I have a public hearing script to open this. The purpose of this public hearing is to hear input and receive questions from the community regarding the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. If you are a community member, you can ask questions in person or make a comment by raising your hand in Zoom or by pressing *6 if you are on the phone. I will call on you when it is your turn to speak. I have no computer in front of me, so perhaps Hector will help me with that. Opening the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing at 6:35 p.m. Staff provided their report prior to this hearing. Do any committee members have questions for staff? Do any community members have questions or comments? Please remember to state your name and address for the record. I'm going to go to Zoom first really quickly. I see no one on Zoom. I have a speaker request before me. Would you like to fill out a speaker request form? Yes, please. And if you don't mind just writing TURA Budget Committee at the top, that would be great.
Yes, it is.
I'm calling to the podium Darby Blood. Please state your name and city for the record.
I'm Darby Blood. I live in Allen, and I'm here as the executive director of the Housing Plan. And I just wanted to mention that the $11,000 amount is not, should not be on the urban renewal budget. It should be the MOU, Town Business Alliance, and the city of City of Town for the Northern, that MOU is with the city of Town. And and just as an informational piece, the AmeriCorps program required a contribution from the entities of $26,000, and the $11,000 was the city's contribution, and it was a direct payment to AmeriCorps. So this went through town business line, but 100% of it went straight to AmeriCorps, the rare participant. And then the remaining balance was paid by business line and health.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the community who would like to speak or ask questions of staff? One more check on Zoom.
Chair, may I just, I'm not sure that Tessa heard that comment. The mayor's belief is that the 11,000 grant to Talent Business Alliance was an agreement with the city rather than TURA. So I'm wondering if maybe we need to correct that in any way.
I would like to double check that.
I'm here as a executive director.
Sorry if I mistitled you. Apologies. So we will check on that and get back to the committee on that.
Okay. Then with that, I'm going to now close this public hearing and record at 6:38 PM. And moving on to agenda item number 6, committee deliberation and possible decision. Is there any deliberation on this item at this time? Member Penamroth.
So if we were to remove the 11th, depending what you find out in the research, if it doesn't belong there, then that just changes the estimated ending balance for this year and hence the beginning balance for the next year. I guess my question is, would you do that anyway as the numbers get
Yes,
stronger?
yes, because
Unless we approved it tonight, then you'd kind of be stuck. Would you?
the column for the estimated 24-25 is an estimate. It was best guess at that point in time.
But it drives the beginning balance.
Correct.
That we're gonna approve, so. I guess, would it be inconvenient to approve this tonight with the adjustment if necessary, or?
It would not be inconvenient.
Okay.
And so if I may, just to clarify for everybody's knowledge, so that becomes in next year's budget, as we are starting to work through that. If that difference will ultimately show up in a future budget, what is the actual fund balance, right? This is showing an actual 23-24 was the actual beginning fund balance of that year. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to change the budget unless it's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions different than what was in the budget.
10%, right?
Member Penamroth.
Yeah, just to follow on that, I think it would see it even sooner, probably in the monthly financial reports that are included in the packet would show the accurate, which isn't really accurate till the penny until July 1st, since we're cash basis, right?
Absolutely.
Any other deliberation on this item?
I think, Chair, if I might,
Yeah.
I think we should share with the board. So we're asking your all approval to send it to the city council for approval and the TURA board. Sorry, thank you, Tessa. And if we do conclude that 11,000 expenditure shouldn't be there, it could either be put in beginning fund balance, and then we would allocate it to the Gateway project to make this budget balance. Would be our likely approach that we would present to the TURA board.
Gotcha.
Are there any other, any further deliberation comments? All right, then I would accept a motion. Member Penamroth.
Okay, I move to approve the Talent Urban Renewal Agency proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2025 to 2026. With the potential adjustment to the beginning fund balance of $11,000 if needed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve
Yeah, and then I just read it.
the Talent Urban Renewal Agency proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2025-2026 with the proposed changes. Is this a roll call item? Yes. All right, roll call, please.
Member Shapiro,
Yes.
member Coley,
Yes.
member Zegstrom,
Yes.
member Panemarov,
Yes,
member Medina,
Yes.
member Hazel,
Yes.
member Diamato.
Yes.
Member Byers.
Yes.
Member Riley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. With that, I move on to agenda item number 7, adjournment at 6:43 PM.